Good flight? Good flight over? Yeah? Well, yeah. Vancouver? Vancouver, huh? Yeah. When do you go back?
Saturday. Mike's staying for a few more weeks. He's going to come to Cork.
Yeah. Oh, hey. Life. Life. You know, yesterday we talked about Glasgow and the situation outside. And that situation here with Glasgow, what you got to keep in mind, what makes it so unique, and what makes this situation with all the papers and the trash outside so unique, is that it's obvious and you can see it. Yeah, that's what makes it unique. And to me, it's a gold mine. When take a situation like in another community or in another country where it's not obvious. Everything is correct. There's no trash and everything runs well. The trains run well and there's very little crime and the community's running well and everything looks so perfect. Then it gets difficult. It gets very difficult to find something to work. Then it's hard. And because it is so obscure, it becomes almost impossible for most people to find something so they can have a reflection inside their own heads, inside their own minds to work. So I want you to look at it that way concerning yesterday in Glasgow. It's obvious. And once a student of life finds, you could say, one door in, because that's a door. It's a door in, indicating you could say, the predicament of human beings in any given society, in any given time. And there it is, and there you have that open door, which is so obvious, and that's what makes it so beautiful. So, you keep that in mind. Lucky that you have it. And you could say once, because all that will be cleaned up. One day you'll find Glasgow will be a very clean city. Glasgow is going to be a very prosperous city one of these days. And it's going to be one of the highlights of Europe. And once it gets so good, it's going to be difficult to find anything to work, to reflect inside. So you're very lucky that you got something that's so obvious. So remember that. Your grandchildren, I don't think it's going to be so obvious. No. Lucky people. What would you like to talk about? You know, there's the people out and back and over there too. There's more. There's a lot of seats over here. And there's two. You can bring. There's two empty seats over here in front. So people in the back, would you please come forward? And there's more. There's more space over. There's about 6 more seats. Yes.
Can you speak about clearing the mind?
Can I speak about
Clearing the mind?
clearing the mind? The word that you're using, clearing the mind, is too confusing. Because basically, you don't want to. I don't know what you mean by clear.
I mean, you spoke yesterday from you can't do it for us.
Right.
We have to do it at our own.
Right.
I thought you said clear, but you used another word.
Yeah. Yeah, I can't. Pardon me? Oh, the vacuum cleaner. Yeah. It's cleaning your mind. Cleaning your mind. Yeah. Cleaning your mind of dust, confusion, anxiety, too much tension, inappropriate tension, stuff like that. Hoovering the various locations of your mind. People, to think of yourself, it's really best that you go and pay attention to medical books and go look at the brain itself. When a person has not fully realized the body, because people, since the day you were born, you've been so busy living every day, looking for new toys, new rooms, new friends, new clothes, new fads, new beers, new flats, new this, new that, you know, just constantly searching and then getting tired in between. People become so identified with their self-pity. People become so identified with satisfying themselves, because most people seek emotional satisfaction on many different levels. People seek emotional satisfaction in ways that may look obscure, difficult to see, difficult to notice, and for some people it's very obvious. And because it is the emotions that basically run people, that people don't pay attention to, you know, where these emotions and where all this this impetus to push you into a certain direction, where it is coming from. If you go into the medical books and take a very good look at the brain, because all brains basically look alike, and yet there's a difference. All brains are really very different, extremely different actually. Once they start to dissect the brains, you can see that the development is extremely different for everybody. The brain is very much like the planet. It's so much like the planet. You could say that this island that you're living on is like a certain area of your brain. And then if you go to Ireland, it's another area. That could be, let's say Ireland could be like the speech, and this area could be a function of recognizing shapes and curves. and probably the continent is probably with speech and mental faculties, and America could be this, and and so it's very much like the earth. And if you look at it this way, that it takes for a human being to be a full human being. When that happens, you can go to any continent, any island. You can go to east, west, north, and south of any particular land and be okay with it and get along with everybody. Because you understand, because you are a person of the world. But if you are not a person of the world, and you are just identified with your own area, you'll most likely have problems with people in the south. You're going to have problems with people in another land. You can not like them this, or dislike them over here, or whatever. That usually creates war. But in understanding your brain is very much the same thing as understanding this world. That it takes the full function of the brains to have a very clear perspective. And it takes a lot of traveling inside our heads. We have to do a lot of traveling inside. And that means that the roots have to grow. That means new highways have to be established. In order for new highways to be established inside, it's going to take, that means you got to put the effort to start to dig across the land. And you got to put in effort to do that. You got to put petrol in your automobile. You got to start bending your back and start digging holes and laying down pavement. And that's the effort of opening up a book. That is the effort of the labor of going back to school. And that is the effort of caring of what's going on inside here and not just what you want. That is emotional satisfaction. What you want. See, what matters, what has given you your life. Life does not owe you anything, people. Life owes you nothing. Your parents owe you nothing. The only thing your parents owed you is to give you shelter and food and some clothes. And that is it. That's it. Nothing else. No love. No affection. If you got a love and affection, you're blessed. It's nothing but a gift. This earth owes you nothing. Your friends owe you nothing. But people want everybody to owe them something. Give me affection. Give me attention. Take care of my self-pity. Take care of my hurt. But if you look at the brain and you just look for what it is, you got to work it. It's not going to move. That brain will not move, people. It doesn't have legs. But you think it has legs. You think it has eyes. It doesn't. In order for you to see, you have to travel. In order for you to see, you got to turn that head of yours and look over there. This is traveling. This is crossing the highways. You got to want to care to look over there. You got to squint. To go out and touch this world, you got to walk. You got to turn the pages. You're not going to get burned. Lightning is not going to strike you if you turn the page and read another page or study. And a lot of it is going against what you want. It's what is good for you, not what you want. What is good for you. And not just today, but in the next 5 years. What's it going to take to get to that place in the next 5 years? And that puts a future on this brain sitting on this table with no eyes, no legs, no fingers, no hands. It's got to be picked up and moved. But we find ourselves, it's too easy to be complacent. It's too easy to just sit there. That's what your legs are for. And that's what this world is all about. To travel. And if you cannot travel an aluminum jet, then you do it through the books, do it through documentaries, do it through magazines, do it through newspapers, and learn of this world. Just don't keep your focus here in Scotland. All you're doing is staying in one little area in your brain. There's no growth. There really is no growth that way. Travel, people, travel inside. What do you think the imagination is? It is to travel. What do you think dreams are? It is to travel. Can you imagine staying in one room your whole life? That happens to some people. They're locked into one room their whole life. And self-pity will lock a person inside. And you'll find every reason in the world why stay in that one room. Your brain is nothing but the surface of this planet. And to cross the channel, you're going to have to roll that boat. It's going to take a little effort and a little sweat, whether you like it or not. It takes sweat, effort, and work. And that's what the pores are for. There's a reason we have pores, and that is to sweat. Let yourself sweat. There's a reason we have our blood vessels. They're rivers, people. You know what happens when the rivers get blocked? You know what happens when you put a dam up? There's going to be problems. There's consequences to the environment. You may get water, but it will kill and stop the fish from flowing. Keep your blood moving. Keep it flowing. Basically what I'm saying to you, do any of you know how you got here? How you arrived on this planet? Do any of you know what brought you here? No, you don't. None of you do. None of you do. You don't know. But it worked. It worked. It really did work. What did you have to do? Nothing. Nothing. It just happened. Very simple, common sense, very simple logic. It worked. No matter what you did, you didn't do anything, but it worked. Life really does work. It knows what it is doing. Just don't put up dams. Don't keep yourself locked in a room. And don't cry because you have to work another hour. Don't cry because you're too tired. Do it anyway. Always go a little beyond when you feel you have to stop. Push yourself a little bit more. Learn another word. How many new words have you learned in this last year? How many? You should know that. You really should know that. This is what creates new highways to new areas in your brain. This is what keeps you traveling throughout your whole brain. To learn things that you have no interest in. That's labor. There's a whole new world to be discovered out there, and it's all inside your head. A highway, a most beautiful, beautiful highway but tens and thousands of roads. Back roads and side roads. But you have to care. Yes.
You once said you nearly gave up yourself until you met I can't remember the gentleman's name that you met in France.
Yes.
You said you nearly gave up.
Yes.
What was that experience like for you? Was it apathetic? Was it lethargy? Was it depression?
No. The question was it concerning to what I'm talking about?
Well, you're talking about learning, so if there's apathy there and lethargy, and I feel I'm on the verge of stopping, forget Emaho, just forget everything,
Yeah.
don't bother learning,
Yeah.
don't do anything, just
Yeah.
give up, I give
Yeah.
up, right, I give it, life wins.
You hit a ceiling. Let me see if I understand where you're coming from. And I understand very well that we all have our problems. And no one escapes problems. No one does. I don't escape problems at all. My problems don't stop at all. But I look at the problems differently. They are perceived very, very differently, from a totally different point of view. And not just from one continent, not just from one island point of view. And not just from the year 2001 at all. Because now that the past is taken into consideration, as well as the future, as well as the present, as well as the year. And that is because you could say more of an astronaut's point of view is looked upon everything in my life. But before that, before I had a breakthrough, it was easy to hit a ceiling where you could say my emotions were overriding me. My problems were overriding me. My ignorance was a little too much. And this happens to all of us, where all of a sudden there's too much weight, there's too much depression, there aren't enough answers, there isn't enough light inside to guide one out. The thoughts are just a little too heavy. And when this happens, you could say we have finally hit the wall. We have run into a dead end, an alleyway. And what to do with something like this? All anybody can do is acknowledge it. You've hit a dead end. You've hit it. That's all you can do is look at the dead end. Look at it. Look at the three walls, and all you can do is walk backwards, but you know where you just came from. And if that's what it is, you stand there and you say, if this is my life, this is my life. I have walked myself into this alleyway. I did it. Whose 2 feet did it? My 2 feet did it. I have no reason or have very little understanding why I walked into this direction, but this is my life. But don't give up. Don't do that. The easiest thing to do is to surrender to gravity in this world. That's the easiest thing to do. And people, it's gravity, it's weight. It's something that's constantly pulling on anything that has any weight association with the body cell, with bones, with thoughts, with feelings, with sensations. It pulls on it. What does joy make you feel like? What does it do to the weight of your body? It lifts you up. It's like pumping helium gas into your body. You feel light. What does happiness do for you? Same thing. What does depression do for you? Give me some stones. What does anger do for you? It can give you stones, and it can give you sugar. honey, petrol. It can give you lots of strength inside. Be wise with this planet. It is the gravity that people don't pay attention to. People are too busy living instead of paying attention to what the weight is doing to you. What are the compulsions inside that led you into that alleyway? What are these compulsions inside? They're your compulsions, people. They're yours. And if it led you there, okay, let's see what in the world is going on with me inside. Let's look at, do I like looking into these walls, these 3 walls, or am I going to walk backwards? Look at the 3 walls. Just look at it. Look at it. What people do is, you know, when people walk into an alleyway and they look at it and they see this, it's like many of the people in Glasgow, they don't look at the trash on the streets. They don't want to see it. But what's it doing to you? What's it doing to your brain? What's it doing to your feelings? Consequences. Consequences. Look at the brick wall. Look at the wall to the left. Look at the wall to the right. Look at it. You built it. You did it. Look at it. Because people, it's nothing but a ghost. It's nothing but smoke. That's all it is, smoke. And you have to remember, when you've hit a ceiling, when you run into a dead-end alley, it's just not going to go away. And don't expect it to go away. But when you really look down and see the trash on the streets, and it's going to hurt, you're looking at the wall, and it's going to hurt. The wall that you built. The alleyway, the dead end that you built. You built it. You built it. You built it inside. You turned off the light inside. You did it. And in time, just there looking at the brick wall. And look how each brick was laid. Some of us are very, very careful, ingenious, with great skill. And some of us, there's no skill whatsoever, just putting up as many bricks as fast as possible, just to lock ourselves into our own cage. But when you take a good look at the brick wall, it will start to dissolve immediately. It's like looking at the trash and picking it up. And start to turn into smoke, brick into smoke, blockages into nothing but smoke. Very much like nightmares. All they are just nightmares, just dreams. But you believe the dream. You have built it. You've designed it. Somewhere along the way, well designed, with your own fear and ignorance. But when you stop and face the monsters, when you stop and look at the monsters in the eyes, they cannot take it. And into smoke they go. It's just that it's not a pretty sight to see ourselves. It's not. It takes an awful lot of effort, and it takes an awful lot of guts inside to do that. A tremendous amount of courage. But you build it a little bit every day. Build that courage just a little bit every day. Don't build a lot of courage in one day. Don't be foolish. Just a little bit. Every day, just a little bit. Improve yourself just a little bit. Don't do a lot. You won't make it. Just a little bit. And if you find there's too much weight, too much depression, too much lead in your thoughts, if you find there's very little light in your head, very little light in your heart, if you find there's very little light in your brain, go study light. When you turn on a light, you see light coming in through a window, look at it. Look what it does. Go study stones. Look what stones do. They're heavy. They stay there for a long time, difficult to remove. But if you build it in stone, it's going to be difficult to remove. But it's easier to paint with the imagination. For we all know what happens when we lock in a hurt that someone has afflicted upon us. We all know what scars can do. We all know what happens when we still have revenge in our blood and it's not complete. We can forget things if we want, and we can remember things if we want. But what do you want? What is good for you? Everybody here is basically a happy, joyful, a very content person. Everybody here is. Everybody is. Everybody here is a very intelligent, very sane, and very stable person. But as a result of too much hurt and too much disappointment, and causing too much harm, not just on ourselves, but upon other people. And then down the road, self-pity becomes our God. And pretty soon, it is weight itself. It is gravity itself that also becomes our God. And pretty soon our feet are too heavy to lift. And pretty soon we have too much dust that covers the joy and the happiness and the sanity that really is inside us. And then in time we can't remember what it was like. We're just basically children that have been hurt too much. Raised in a world where there's an awful lot of confusion. Especially when the adult world is very confused and in fear with the World War II. Everybody's still suffering from World War II. None of us are free of it. None of us are. But you got to remember the time that we exist in. And it's going to take many generations for this World War II to get out of the blood, if we get it out. But so many people in England, to them, they're still at war with Germany. And Germany's let it go. Japan has let it go. China hasn't. Have you? That you call the year 2001, and you don't know how you got here, but you're here, that's magic. What more magic do you want? To realize that is your ticket out. To realize that, a bright light cannot help but explode inside your head. To realize that. Use this world as you use pencils and pens and paper. If you don't have a car, then you go through walks in the highlands. It's your world. If you don't have good legs, then use your fingers and your eyes and travel through books and magazines and pictures, libraries. And it is not your hurt and it is not your disappointment that is really the major factor in this life. It's not. But people put it as a major influence, as a major focal point. It's not. Well, I talk about self-pity in relationship to authority. Is there a problem in Scotland with that? Yeah, that Scottish people keep themselves down quite a lot. Or is it Glasgow or is it Edinburgh? I get confused. You know, who's the better of the two? Have I touched a sore point here? Oh, you weren't thinking like that. Are you saying the Edinburghs are a little? Oh, yeah. Yeah. Self-pity and authority. I think I know what you're talking about. Yeah. People, you can go into every village has their neuroses. Every village has their problems. Every village has their twist. Every village, every town does. Every state in America does. Every valley does. Every community does. Every family does. As well as Scotland too. The trick, again, all it is a certain area in your brain. That's all it is. It's just that people focus on that one area in your brain. You'll get lost. You can't see. You're too close to the Berlin Wall. Now, using the emphasis of the Berlin Wall is an excellent example. I'm going to talk about this for you. I had the privilege to see the wall right before it came down. And I went to East Berlin to see the difference. It was shocking, the difference. Just by one wall dividing a city, and to see the mass difference. You know the Germans. If you have not been to Germany, you should go to Germany. You really should go to Germany. Save your money and go to Germany and travel in Germany and see what it's like. Their faces are totally different than your faces, than you Scots. Totally different. Their faces are straighter. They're actually healthier faces. They're straighter. Their eyes are straighter. Their bodies are straighter. They're stronger. Their physiques are stronger. They stand up more erect. They're just whoom, whoom, black and white, black and white, black and white. Americans are not straight compared to the Germans. To me, they're a race. No wonder they started 2 world wars. They really have something inside that has a determination, and they'll just move with it because of their minds. Their minds are very, very clear. And you can see it in their face, very clear. You can see it in how they produce, how they manufacture. You can see it in their writings. You can see it almost in everything that they do. They're just straight. They just move right on. And I can understand why a lot of people have problems with them. Because they just move. They just do what they're going to do. And most of the world, they usually stand back and think about it or wait or, they contemplate. But they've learned so much from them because they are very straight with their money. They love clarity. They love clarity. They don't like shadows. They don't like the gray area. They love clarity. Switzerland too. They love clarity. Black and white, black and white. Don't give me gray area. And when you go there and you get to see how these people have developed as a result, and it's really the mind. And it's their perception. And how they think of authority is very different too. But then you take the Berlin Wall being raised, and what this wall did, the wall was up for about 40 years. And when you cross the wall to East Berlin, and they're the same Germans, the same Berliners, They're not the same Berliners anymore. After 40 years, they had been mutated. You could see that they lost all their ambition. The people who lived for 40 years in East Germany, East Berlin, they lost all their ambition in their face. All of a sudden, there's no more directness in their face. There's no more ambition. There's no more person, I'm going to go this way, I'm going to go this way, I'm going to go this way. It's gone. They took away their ambition. They got a big eraser. Communism had a big eraser and wiped off ambition. Wiped off directness. Totally wiped it off. Because who's going to think for them? The state. Who's going to do their thinking? The state of communism. So we don't have to think. Now I can just let gravity do its job. You tell me what to do. You just tell me what to do. Tell me how to think. Tell me where I'm going to work. Tell me where I'm going to live. And after 40 years, it totally wiped away all these German faces. It was shocking. There were no longer Germans. They were no longer Germans. And 40 years. And it did that to a face. And it did that to thousands, tens and thousands of faces. It was shocking what mutation can do just in 40 years. And I can see the faces in America too. They're different faces. The Irish have different faces. The French have different faces. You know that. The Russians have different faces. The Africans have different faces. If communism in 40 years can wipe away ambition and totally change the structure of the face, how is happening in your community to change your face? Are you redrawing it, leaving it the same? What are you doing with your faces? What are you doing with your kids? What are your teachers doing with your kids? What's the emphasis? What's the goal? Where are you taking your kids? In America today, there is a terrible disease growing in America, and it's been growing for some time. And it is a mind that is getting more and more shallow. It is a terrible disease that's happening in America. And so many Americans are getting this disease. There's hardly anything upstairs. They hardly think. There's no depth in their minds. It's a terrible thing to watch. And a lot of Americans are getting afflicted with this. There's nothing, hardly anything there. And yet there are a lot of Americans that have very, very good minds, as good as minds as anybody else in this world. But there's no culture there. Be grateful you have a culture. Be grateful you have history here. But I'm telling you, you have the power to change. If communism can change a face for tens of thousands of people, just with an attitude, what can you do with your attitude? If you hold on to hurt, old age will eventually show its face. If you hold on to hope, eventually time and age and old age will show its face. People, go study the elderly. Do not ignore the elderly. Look what happens if you do not continue to grow the roots in your brain. In America, it's a terrible disease. Go study the elderly. Your brain If you are 36 years old, your brain is not 36 years old, people. If you are 52 years old, your brain is not 52 years old. Your brain rejuvenates almost like every 2 years. It regrows itself. You know what that is? Hope. Hope to change. Don't let yourself live in your old movie. Make your movie better. Be a better director. Change it. Just a little bit every day, that's all you have to do. That's what communism did. A little bit every day. Slowly. Communism was very smart. Slowly. Get that eraser and start wiping off the directness of the cheeks and of the nose. And pretty soon, there's nobody there. Authority, what is authority, people? What's the problem with authority? What is the problem with authority? What does authority mean? Authority. Why is there authority? Why does it exist? It's important for society to have authority. What is a boss? A boss. Who's the boss? The boss. That's it. Who's the employee? The employee. If a boss tells the employee what to do, if it's in the job description, should do it. You won't get struck by lightning. Pardon?
The authority is anti-life.
What is the authority to life?
No, it's anti-life. You know, some authority, as I perceive it, is anti-life.
Some authority is anti-life. Oh boy. Okay. Anti-life. Ah. Okay. What authority have you come across that is anti-life?
Some people in places of authority in church and places of authority in the medical profession.
Yeah,
You know,
yeah,
I consider
yeah.
that they're in positions of authority and they are really
Yeah, they anti to your life. Now let's back up here, okay? You know, the problem is that people are so busy living that when they come across a person who is anti-life, okay, who disrupts a lot of people's lives, all of a sudden they're shocked. If you are shocked by all of a sudden meeting these people along the way, you have not done your homework at all. You have been living in a dream. Living in a dream. You've been daydreaming. First of all, to break all this down so you can get it straight and straighten up all this, you got to realize, how did this person get there? This person was a little boy and a little girl just like you. Did you know that? No, you didn't. Because now you see an adult there. But this person was a little boy and a little girl basically in the same classroom as you. And this person, you could say, was victimized, just like the past generation and the generation before them and the generation before them, by bad teachers, bad parents, ineffective societies, depression, not enough potatoes to eat, hardship, pain inflicted, maybe parents dying, maybe getting raped at an early age. Huh? History, people, history. And who put them there? Your friends. Who voted them in there? You did. Your friends did. Your neighbors did. And you have to understand, people, they are doing exactly what you taught them, what your teachers taught them, what life today teaches them. Go get a job. Go do this. Be a profession. Get to the top. Get to the top. And you know what happens? The doctors that don't have the real passion of what it is to be a physician, they do it because it's a job. The priests who don't really have the calling, they do it because they want to please their parents. They think they're holy and they're not. Or they're hiding something inside. They don't know, but society says, go out there and get it. Society doesn't screen these people. They don't. Anybody can be a physician no matter how many demons you have, just as long as you pass the exam. You cannot blame these people for being there. Society put them there. There's no screening whatsoever. The only screening is the exam on paper, not on the character of the person. And this is what should be done. The people who should be physicians are the people who have the passion inside, who have the calling inside, and not just to go to get a job. They're not going to be good doctors. The priest should not be the priest if there is no true calling. Then they're boring. As it is for a mother and a father too. Who teaches the young ones how to be a good mother and a good father? Who? Everybody's too busy growing up. Who really goes and teaches a person how to be a good business person? No one does. You got to get in there and make all the mistakes yourself. Nobody's really taught to do anything. No wonder this world is the way it is. Everybody's really left for themselves. All the kids get thrown out of the bird cage at a very early age, too early of an age. They get forced out, especially here in Scotland. In Germany, they get forced out too early. You get forced to find your profession at such an early age, it's too much pressure on a little kid. You can't do that. It's too early. But the adults keep doing it to the kids. And no wonder you're getting these people up there. Kids are not allowed to be kids their whole life here. They're forced to grow up. And as a result, they are going to miss social, you could say, development that is so necessary in everybody's life. But too many kids miss it. I see it here in Scotland. I see it in America. I see it in Germany. I see it in France. I see it in Switzerland. There's a social development that every country is missing because we all get forced. That's why you can't really blame these people. They're not anti-life people. They're victims. They're victims of circumstances. They're victims too, people. They're suffering too, just like you. The problem is not them. The problem is the system. The problem is the way we look at the system. And it has a history. That is the problem. A history that is constantly fed by the adult community to keep it alive because they went through it. What the adults say, because they went through it and they're sinking. They tell, hey, listen, I went through it and my boat is sinking and I'm going to make sure and I'm going to make sure every son and daughter sinks with me. That if I miss my childhood, I'm going to make sure every child misses their childhood. If I was forced to grow up, I'm going to make sure all kids are forced to grow up. If I went through the pain, you're going to go through it too. Don't blame the people. It's the system. They're not anti-life people. They're victims of life. They're suffering more than you. Every human being knows if they're doing wrong. Every human being does. That is what suffering is. Quiet suffering inside. That's how people slowly die inside. That's how people slowly get bored and bore other people. That's how sadness slowly starts to grow in your eyes. That's when hope starts to fade away from the twinkle in your eyes.
What part of childhood is it that's missing for our society?
What part is childhood is missing in what?
You talk about missing out on childhood because of having to choose careers early on. I'm wondering what part of childhood is it? The whole of childhood is getting shortened, or is it maybe a part in late childhood that's getting cut off?
Yeah, you could see, if you really take a look, you could see that there are so many boys, young men, teenage, in their 20s and 30s. You could see in the development of a face, there was a development that did not mature in there. There's a boyish look in their face. You can see it. It's a boyish look. Grown men with a boyish look in their face. And you can see this is prevalent throughout so many young men today because they're forced to grow. Literally forced. How can a little boy, 14 years old, 16-year-old, make a decision? That's ridiculous. That's cruelty. It's cruel, people, to do that to a 14-year-old boy. It's cruel. But when the adults support it, imagine what's going on inside them because they were forced. That's cruelty. Human beings can be the cruelest animals on the planet. It doesn't have to be like that. Not at all.
But also with young children, first going into school, we're forced to read and write too soon. And in England at the moment,
It is.
3 years old, write your name, come on.
Kids should not be forced to read and write. It's something that is development from a person-to-person point of view. Everybody develops differently. But we're forced. Pardon? Oh boy. Hey, to change this and to make it better, I mean, the best thing is a big, beautiful revolution. Marches, you know, people talking, people educating themselves about this, you know, to stop this forced growth. It's forced growth. It's a forced walk. It's a forced march. You know, I mean, America's got problems too. You know, they don't force their kids. In Germany, they force their kids too. You know what was shocking in Germany was that they have these different schools, and it depends on how good you are. And at a very early age, it is determined that you are going to be in the lower class. You're going to just get menial jobs, labor jobs. And if you go to these other schools, you're going to get the higher end, the upper echelon, live in the higher sectors at a very early age. And you're marked for the rest of your life, as it is here. You're marked. The most beautiful thing about America is you're not marked at all. You don't get marked at all. School doesn't really mean much of anything, actually. It really doesn't. Because, you know, they know that all it is, hey, is your imagination. Your will and your imagination. You can go out and start your own job and make your own money. You can do what you want. You don't really need school. It helps. And everybody says you should do it. It helps. And it does help. Again, it's the brain, people. Go and travel in your brain, travel in this country, and see where it is better in other countries. See what they do better. Bring it here. Every country has their beauty. Every country has their uniqueness that all other countries can use, that all other parts of your brains can use. That's why travel. Find out what is the best and get the best from each country, each community, and bring it into your world. And that gets your brain to grow inside. The American Indians, case in point. The American Indians stay American Indians. Most of them do. 99.99% stay American Indians, and guess what? There's nothing else in this world but being Indian. Completely narrow-minded. They lost their focus. Why? Because they're hurt. They're hurt by the white people. They hate white people. They got a chip on their shoulder. And because they hate white people and they got this emphasis and they got this chip on their shoulder, they don't want it. To them, white people is the trash like you see here in Glasgow. To them, they're trash. So they see nothing but this trash all over their place. Instead of picking up their trash, instead of picking up and understanding the white people, they lost the war. Forget it. You lost. We lost. And I found out I had a chip on my shoulder too. Because I was, same thing. And I found out I also had this chip on the shoulder. I had to come to terms. We lost. It's over. It's over. We really lost the war. We weren't so bright. Authority. I was against authority too. The white people are the authority, period, people. But I tell you one thing. Once you really understand it, I'm glad it was you white people who conquered us and not the Chinese. You know what it'd be like today if the Chinese had conquered us? I would not like it. I'm glad it wasn't the Africans. I'm glad it wasn't the Russians. I'm glad it wasn't the Polish or the Gypsies. I'm glad it wasn't the French. I'm glad. I looked around to see who would give us the best. Not treat us so well, but who would give us the best out of all. And I'm glad it was the Europeans. The Europeans. You better be proud of your European culture and see the richness in it. But get the best from other lands too. In essence, people, get on with it. You gotta stop this authority stuff. You got a problem here. I know that. Ever since I've been here, authority is a big thing and I know that. It is because you've been raised with it since you were young. You've been brainwashed with it. And somehow authority became a real issue. You missed the point. It's just that it's been passed on ever since childhood days. You've been brainwashed, duped. You need bosses. You need authority. There's just a lot of bad people out there too, but a lot of good people too. But if you look at the history, you understand they're victims too. Then you change it. But don't hate the authority. That has to be respected. Take a break. Can you play that song again? That's so nice. That's a nice song. Yeah. You've heard me say that everyone here has the joy, the happiness, it's the peace is in there, the clarity. You could say it is like being really knowing that you really belong, that you really belong. But we're covered up by stuff, society, neuroses, brainwashing, hurt, disappointment, self-pity, all that stuff, And time does that, If you can remember, what was it like to get your first hurt? People, it's not sin. Sin is not the problem. It's hurt and disappointment. Hurt and disappointment is the problem. That's the problem. And what it does, it accumulates. Every little bit of hurt is very much like the weight of a feather. And each feather, put it on a balance scale, it starts to pick up weight. Rocks, stone, they really don't have that power that feathers do. It is feathers that really have the power that really creates the distortion within the human beings later on in the years after they exist. Huh. You know, we all have our scars, all kinds of scars. But we move on. But it's funny, we don't forget someone who has hurt us, do we? We don't forget so easily. Yeah. And here we can have and here's his face, okay? Yeah. And somebody hurts us just a little bit, huh? And the hurt, there's another hurt. And then all of a sudden a friend hurts us, huh? And these hurts, you know, they start off at such an early age. And these scars, you know, they're very delicate. You know, they're sometimes they can make us bleed. Our emotions can really start to bleed. Then it starts to afflict our brain, our mind, in such a way that it creates doubt in ourselves. Too much hurt creates too much doubt. And pretty soon, all of a sudden, we have little hurt over here, and then a little hurt, over here. And all of a sudden, we get hurt again, and here we get little. Then we get hurt again and disappointed, And then again, And then we get hurt again and disappointed, And then we get hurt again, disappointed, Yeah? And it starts to really rip us apart inside. It pulls on our skin, you could say. It pulls on our feelings. It pulls on our sensations inside, And pretty soon we're kind of like, But we can smile, We have to smile for the boss, smile for your kids, or smile for the policeman who's going to give you a ticket, But inside, you're, and just kind of like, we can be all twisted inside. We all know what it's like to be twisted inside, Huh? We all know this feeling. And it's funny, we have the power to show ourselves differently inside. To change this. People, forgiveness, simple forgiveness, A lot of crying can do it. A lot of tears can do it. But it's really got to come from the heart to do this. That's the only thing that really, really hits home inside our hearts. This is the only thing that really relaxes the distortions inside our head, inside our mind, inside our hearts. When the twisting starts to occur inside, we start to get lost in the highways in our brain. All of a sudden we can't find that one country. All of a sudden we can't find that festival that we were going to, and we find ourselves lost in the forest. And then in time, the eyes, the light inside, if we bow down, if self-pity becomes our God, if guilt becomes our God, the light starts to shut down inside. And our eyes can be open, but the eyes are shut inside. A human being needs light. Light is nothing but information. And a human being also needs the darkness too, for a certain length of time. We need both. And when the eyes can open, it hurts to see. It really does hurt to see ourselves. But you got to find out what's twisted inside you, huh? You got to see where your twist is. And the twist is usually around philosophies. your perceptions, your ideas, and you got to rework them. Huh? You got to rework it all. Who's right? The Swiss? Who's right? The Indian? Who's right? The English? Who's right? The Russians? Who's right? The Chinese? Everyone's got a beautiful right. Everyone really does. Every culture has beautiful philosophies, and every culture has terrible philosophies. They're your eyes. It's up to you to weed out the bad philosophies and to acquire what is good for a human being. Not good for the Scots, not good for the Americans, but what's good for a human being. Relax, relax, relax. But we all know what happens when tension gets a little too strong, pulls on us too easily. Really think about it. You really have no idea how you got here on this planet. You don't. But you got here. Life is a miracle. It really knows what it's doing. Just that we get in the way. Is it the awakening of the heart that can break the big bubble? Can I have the little buddy with the in the glass, please? You know, and I have really said this throughout all the tour. It is in Glasgow that the people really are closer to my heart than any place else in the world. It is the Glaswegians that are really more closer to my heart that I can feel than any place else. Any place else. It's here in Glasgow. It's because of the way you are. In most countries, most people operate with the mind, very strong with the mind, and the mind is so important to learn and to get in this world because we live in a world of storms and things go wrong and there's lots of bad people and lots of wonderful people and we got to get the mind straight. But if we have no heart, we are a machine, just a number. We are a species that bleeds very easily. We are a species that easily gets offended and hurt. And that means that we are people with a heart. But it takes both. It really takes both to really make it work. You can be very extremely heartful, but if your mind is not mature, you're going to be in trouble. You can be very mindful and extremely intelligent, but if you are not heartful, you're going to get in trouble. And this is where the effort and the work comes in, to get them both It's a dance of both, people. Very much like the brain on the left side and the brain on the right side, two completely different brains. One dances and one likes to read and one likes to think and do math. The other one likes to just draw and paint and sing and dance. This is where we all get confused. So we choose sides. Do not choose sides. You have two eyes for very good reasons. You have two hands for very good reasons. You have two different brains for very good reason. The trouble is you all intellectually know this, but you don't realize it. For to realize just one of these, a bright light would explode in your head, and you will see. Just realize one. And don't forget, you've been taught from a Western point of view to intellectualize everything. And everybody thinks they're very clever because they can easily understand a concept or easily understand a sentence or easily understand what the person is trying to say. Then you say, oh, I got it, I understand. Next. That's the problem. You intellectually understand it, but people don't realize anything. They're too busy. But we got very clever intellectualizing everything very quickly. And that's where you think we are too smart. To realize one thing in this world takes years, years, years of devotion. That's what the monk is all about. That's what living in the cave is all about. That's what going into the desert is all about. Stop all the intellectualizing and just realize one thing. And you'll forever have it. No longer requiring memories. It'll always be at the tip of your tongue. It'll always be in your eyes, no matter what you see, whether in war or peace, whether underwater or above land, whether asleep or whether awake. You have it. You are it. And not just a thought, and not just a concept, and not just a philosophy. You are it. And not just thinking it, you live it. But it's been years, it takes years to realize one thing. We saw this movie in the last seminar in Switzerland, and it was about this Inuit Indian in Greenland. I thought it was Canada before, but it's in Greenland. And it's an old man who, before civilization came, and he was a hunter in the ice. They lived on the ice their whole life. And after his grandchildren felt he was too old to go out and hunt anymore, they killed all his dogs, except for one, so he couldn't go out in his dog sled anymore. So now he doesn't have his car, so now he's got to stay home and just age. And it was a documentary about his life and what was it like to be a hunter. And to him, it was the vision. That's what life is. It's just to have your vision. But when the vision is taken away and you're giving a false vision. And he made a comment. He was looking out the window and watching the kids play in the town now. Now nobody lives in igloos anymore. They live in white men's houses. And he says now what they do, they watch TV all day. And TV, it shows them and gives them everything, but it gives them nothing. Nothing. Because it's a false light. It's not a real light. They're not real pictures. It's not something tangible that you can hold inside. We live under city lights, but don't forget the starlight too. No matter how many stars in the sky, or no matter how many city lamps you live under, this is the best star there is, you. The best light there is you. And if you found yourself conceived, and whether it was because that young man and that young woman found themselves in the back seat of a car or somewhere in the woods and they were making love, and whether you were conceived of lust or love, it has fated you to be walking on a planet, the third planet from the sun. It has literally fated you, cemented you to have an existence somewhere in the universe. A planet that never sits still, that is traveling 486,000 miles an hour through space. A very fast automobile. And if you can let go of what it is to be Scott, if you can let go of what it is to be French or English or Indian, and really ask really good questions that are more pertinent to your life, who has their foot on the gas pedal? That's projecting this planet 486,000 miles an hour. And in what direction are you headed to? That is what's important. As you care for what speech you come to listen to, as you should care for what water you drink, as you should care for what flat to live in, as you should care what bed you make. We can shrink our mind or we can expand it. We can feed our minds or we can kill it. We can brighten our imagination or we can just put shades of gray over it. We can hate our life or we can love it. They're your fingers, they're your mouth, they're your tongue, they're your feet. It's your nose that is pointing in what direction, it's up to you. Just don't make big secrets about it. Don't make voodoo over it, and don't make it spiritual. And stop playing all that spiritual games. For if you can't even really be a real human being, how can you really be spiritual? For too many people play this spiritual game and they get lost only to really hide their hurt, only to really hide their ignorance. Because if you want to use common sense and logic, when you pass away, when you die, then you can be spiritual all you want. You don't have to worry about what it is to be a human being anymore. In infinity, you can stay in there and be spiritual. But the common sense is, and the logic is, if you are in the flesh, then understand what it is to be. If you know yourself a little bit better today, you'll have a much better chance knowing yourself a little bit better tomorrow. If you're more at peace with yourself today, most likely you'll find yourself more at peace tomorrow. But if you do not know who you are today, most likely you're not going to know who you are tomorrow. If you don't improve yourself a little bit today, most likely you're not going to improve yourself tomorrow. And you only have so many days to do this. There's only so many full moons before they go away. And one day it will stop. Put an investment in your life and in your future, just a little bit every day. That's all it takes. Do not seek the negative. Do not seek the weaknesses of other people. You're already too expert of that. But seek the goodness. Seek something you're not an expert of. Seek where there is more light. Seek the beauty. Seek where there is more hope. Any coward can find a weakness in a human being, but it takes courage to see their goodness, no matter how bad they are. And then you can unlock your twistedness of the strain within your eyes, within your fingers, within your back. Just build on that courage just a little bit every day. That's all you have to do. And give yourself many, many years before it shows its face. We've got about 20 minutes. What would you answer some questions? Give me some water, please.
I just wanted to ask about, it feels like there's a connection between the rubbish, the litter thing, and the Petit Mouth epidemic, and how it's been dealt with, and
Is there, wait a minute, can you repeat that?
It feels to me that there's a connection between the litter and the foot and mouth epidemic
Foot
and
and
the way
mouth.
it's being dealt with. They seem to be killing a lot of animals but not clearing up the carcasses.
Yeah, yeah. That is something, isn't it? That is something. It's funny how they are dispositing these carcasses away from their land, away from their homes, and putting them in other people's lands. And even though they're taking somewhat precautions and putting liners in, so it doesn't leak, but it's going to leak. Yeah, it's not too smart. No, it's not too smart. Yeah, I would say there's some form of relationship there in how they look at it. Yeah.
Do you think that they should be killing less and only killing what they can clean up?
You know, I don't know. I am no expert in that field. That is not my field. It's not something that I can really comment on at all. I'm ignorant about that. We're too ignorant. You know, I would just be speculating. It's not good. I'm no scientist. What is the difference between the brain and the mind? Science today they've been trying to find the mind, actually. They really have been trying to find where in the hell that mind is, because they know it's not in the brain. They thought it was in the brain. They thought is that it is it's a byproduct of the brain, and it is. Without the brain, we cannot have the mind. And so, in essence, it's kind of like we need the water in order to survive. We need light in order to see. We need the brain in order to have the mind, in order to sense the mind, in order to feel the mind. So we're actually living a phenomenon of mind, brain, something solid. And basically, because of the mind, it's kind of like the Swiss. I know how much money I have in the bank. And so we trust that. We know that works. You know, we know one brick on top of another really does add up, and you can put a house together. And so when we try to look to find what the mind is, and we take a look at the brain, and we can see all these bricks and everything, but there's nothing there that indicates that would make that work. That would give us the perception of having what we call our minds, our consciousness, you could say. And so it's an unknown animal, kind of. It's an unknown entity. It's an unknown phenomenon of what this mind is. It's something but we know it's there. You know, it's obvious, but we can't find it. We can't sell it. You know, I can't sell you my mind. I can sell you my brain, and we do that. You know, but we can't sell the mind. I can sell you some chocolate, but I can't sell you my love. I can sell you a story, but I can't sell you my feelings. So we're dealing with a phenomenon that's really, it's kind of hard to put down. This is what makes life so difficult, because it's unique. We can't box it, and that's the beauty of it. So a mind is something that is quite it's an invisible structure, you could say. And there are many religions, many philosophies that do a number with this mind and where it goes. Because after a person goes to sleep, what happens? You can go into your dreams, or sometimes you feel you're out gallivanting around as a mind, visiting people in their dreams or whatever. And when you pass away, most people hope that your mind continues on and that you get to go into other worlds, or you get to another lifetime, or you go to hell. You hope you go to hell, you never get there. Then you end up going to heaven. You say, oh my God, wrong place. So you want to go to hell. So, so everybody has these games that, that they do with it, and all these various philosophies. And did your mind exist prior to your conception? Or did it come on the second stage of the embryonic stage? Or did it come on the third stage? All of a sudden, did you all of a sudden get your mind when you came out of the womb? And no matter what you do with it, people, no matter what philosophy, no matter what story you add to it, life is a miracle. It really is. Life is a miracle. It's unique. It's bizarre. And it's wonderful. Just be smart with it. Don't be dumb with it. Be very smart with it. Respect it. We can sell our bodies, but we really can't sell the mind. We can sell the brain, but you can't steal my heart. So that means you got something unique onto yourself. That means you got a most beautiful, beautiful gift that's just all yours. That nobody can grab. They can hurt you. They can make you, but it's all yours. You can close your eyes. You can go to any world that you want, almost. And if you have watched enough people pass away, you can see that there are people that can die alive. But too many human beings die dead in this world. Too many die dead. And to really understand this mind, because the brain dies, people. It does. It goes, what do you call, flatline. No more neuron activity. Kaput. Over. Finished. Somebody pulled the plug. But you can see, when the people who die alive, you can see in their faces. You can see in how they passed away. But the mind is still there, but someplace else. It went someplace else. You can see that there is life. But the people who die dead, there is no life. The plug is pulled. You could say almost like the mind dies with the brain. But that's not the case. It's that there's a lot less light. Yeah. Your mind is there ain't no money in the world that can buy any mind. For every mind is just so, it's a beauty. It's a gift. Huh? Yeah. I am almost 5'7". Almost. Okay? I'm a person that I used to fight a lot when I was young. With me and my friends, we used to really go out and fight other guys. And then we got all these and then we go go show the girls. That was me. I drank a lot of beer when I was in high school, and I kind of quit when I started college. I only completed 1.5 years of university. I was too ignorant. I couldn't. I didn't do well in school. Period. I didn't like to study. I had all kinds of jobs. Did all kinds of. But the best job I've ever had. It was the most happiest time in the world. I moved to Montana, and I worked in a lumber mill. I really wanted a chainsaw and go fell trees. I wanted to cut down trees, but I'm too small. And so they said, no, you should go work in a lumber mill where you don't have the muscles or the strength. So I went to work in a lumber mill, and it was great. I worked hard. I just loved it. I just loved it. I worked graveyard shift because there were hundreds and hundreds of men applying to work at these lumber mills because it was the best paying job in the community. And so everybody's got to pay the price. And so I had to go work in graveyard. And I figured I was going to work graveyard for maybe 10 years and eventually I would get a day job. Okay? And that was my plan. And so my job was working outside. And in Montana, for about 2 weeks, every winter, it gets about 40 degrees below zero. So I worked on 40 degrees below zero. It was very cold. It was a beautiful experience, and I loved it. And this was a funny thing. When I first came to Montana, first to move there, and it was already cold. It was just so cold. And I saw these men just in T-shirts. No coats, just in T-shirts. You know, going in and out of the stores. You know, I says, wow. You know, okay, I want to be like that. So now I am working in 40 below, and then all of a sudden it went up to 0 degrees. It got warmer. And funny thing, I had no coat on, just a T-shirt, because you adapt. So now I got to be one of those guys. My dream came true. But I never became a man. I never became a man because I love to fish. And Montana is one of the best fishing places in the world. Beautiful rivers. And ice fishing in the wintertime, I want to go do that. And so I go watch all these fishermen fish on the rivers. And so I go down there, with my fishing pole and hey man, what are they biting on? And they're well, I'll tell you what, and he pulls out one of these, what do you call those, maggots? Ooh. And it's live, Ooh, he's got a mouthful of maggots in there, and he says, here, use one of these. See, they're men. And so I realize I will never be a man. So I am not a man. I gave that up. Okay? I ride a motorcycle. I like computers. I love computers. I love movies. I love to go dancing. I drink beer every now and then. I love driving an automobile. I love it. I love it. I love it. I love it. Love it. I love the same thing as a bike or a motorcycle, but something about an automobile. Because you know something? If you ever happen to ride an automobile and you're all by yourself, really think about this. Really, really think about this. Here we have a planet that never stops, traveling 486,000 miles an hour. Here, this island that you're living on is moving, people. It is moving. It's just not stationary. This thing is on, all the continents are on molten nickel. And they're all traveling and moving. Huh? And did you know that the blood in your body is constantly moving too? It better not stop. And you know that your brain is always firing like spark plugs in an engine? Always. Did you know that you better not stop thinking? Better not. Did you know that you're always inhaling and exhaling? It better not. Did you know that we like to open up our eyes and see? You know, we like to walk someplace sometimes. You know, sometimes we really like to eat. Everything is moving. Wow, the sun's even moving across the sky. The moon is moving. The stars are moving. Everything is moving but the North Star. Wow. Wow. And here we are and driving a car. This is who I am. I found myself, you know, all I am, I'm always traveling. My own sailboat. Whether I pass away, get conceived, wake up and go to school, going to the toilet, going to go wash dishes, you know, going for a walk, in my car, you know. You know, the car is very much like my aura, you know. That's why I clean up my aura a little bit and vacuum it, you know, and blow it, and I clean my eyes, you know, make sure they're not too tired, and I clean my windshield, you know, and I clean my thoughts, and I open up the windows so I get some fresh information, some fresh oxygen, you know, and maybe I'll get a fly in there to bother me, you know, or a bee, you know, just, or feel my hair just brushing through the wind, you know, and they're like that, or stick my head out, you know. This is who I am, a traveler. I love to travel. I love to go places, love to see new things, you know, I love to, that's who I am. Just nothing but a traveler. Just another traveler in the universe of travelers. We are all travelers. Just nothing but brothers and sisters to each other. But if you're going to travel, travel well. Be smart with your travel. Don't let gravity hold you down into one place. Travel in your head, travel on your land, travel through books, travel with movies, travel with your friends, travel with speech. This is who I am, a traveler. Nothing, I can be nothing else but a traveler. I am not a star in the sky. I'm not a sun that heats up the land of other planets. I'm not an angel. I'm not a cloud. I'm not a river. But I am of all of it. I'm a little bit of everything. This is who I am. That's all I am. Nothing more, nothing less. That's who I am. Do we choose our path in life, or is it predestined? For the most part, for most people, it is predestined. For most people, but their destiny, most people never reach their destiny. Most people never reach it. There's a destiny that is set up for some, but because of ignorance, guilt, too much weight, too much self-pity, the predicament, or there's a war, or there's a nuclear holocaust, or we get hit by an asteroid, fate and destiny is out the window. You never know. There is no guarantee for anything. No guarantee for anything. There's no contract, people. Where's your contract? Where's it say on your destiny card that you're going to be destined for this? Don't be foolish. Don't wait for destiny to come to you. Don't wait for fate to come to you. Don't wait for karma to knock on your door. If you ask me, too many people have been bullied by this fate and this destiny. Don't do that. It's nice that we get the mailman to come and deliver our mail, but it doesn't always happen. Things happen. You take your life, huh? You got to take hold of your life, people. You got to make it work. Don't let society tell you, like the communists did for the East Berliners. Don't do that. Communism is still here. It's in America. It's everywhere, people. Communism exists everywhere in this planet. And you design your face. You pencil it in. You paint it in. Be colorful. Don't be bland. Be colorful. Don't be gray. There's nothing wrong with crying. There's nothing wrong with making mistakes. There's nothing wrong with being wrong. There's nothing wrong with being angry. Being angry about what's going on in this world, that's healthy. There's too many things wrong with this world, but there's too many beautiful things too. Your fate, where are you going to step next? It's up to you. Bring your bodies tomorrow. Bring your minds tomorrow. Bring your hearts tomorrow. And let's change your fate. Adios. Can I have some water, please? Let me see what he does. What did it say? Vasa. Vasa. No gas. Vasa. No gas. Thank you. Can you open that for me? Thanks. Thank you. It's okay. Thank you. Let me put it. Thank you. Oh, you got to turn off all phones. First thing, turn off your phones. Everybody turn off your phones. Turn off your phones. Turn off your pagers, your phones, your computers. Turn off your mind. And turn off your neuroses most of all. Right now. And if you're still attached to your mother, turn that off. You know, one time it was in Toyfin. You know, there it was in the middle of the speech, and I feel this thing on and it was my phone. It was on. I had it, turned on so it was. You could hear it real loud. It has a buzzer so it could vibrate, but the vibrator was off. And so, I mean, I was very fortunate. It didn't turn on while I was, Oh, excuse me. See, that's good karma. That's good karma. Yeah. Someone asked a question about the feelings of the heart and the feelings of the mind. And it was said by someone that when one feels with the mind, it comes from the internal. It's internal based. And when it comes from the feelings of the heart, it's external based, and that's true. The mind, it works with time in a very different way than the heart does. When it comes to the mind, it is purely a subjective, objective point of view. When it comes to the mind, it is purely object, subject point of view. And we have all been taught to perceive life this way. Objective, subjective, object, subject. So in essence, it has literally created a gap. And the one thing that I found that's so wonderful here in your country, because your country, and I'm talking about all of England, and including Scotland, they have brought so many beautiful ways to look at this world in such a beautiful, beautiful way. And if you could see it all, you could see that it has benefited the world on many, many different levels. It has educated the world a great deal. And one of them was to mind the gap. It is so genius. You know? You know? Because when you really think about this, you know, it is a gap. It is a gap. I mean, that's really genius. You know, there's a gap that exists. It's just not a step. It's just not a matter of 6 inches or 1 meter. It's a gap. And to really break down the science of the mind and the science of the heart and the science of the spirit, there's a particular language of usage of words that helps so much better than using other words, because the other words, you could say, they don't quite carry the explosiveness of it, that it spreads for years or lifetimes, or it explodes into other dimensions of thinking and living. And mind the gap is one of these words that when you look at it, because gap itself indicates not just pure science, because in a motor for a car that is combustible motor, where they use petrol, there's these spark plugs. And a spark plug is it's so simple, it's so unique. But when you understand the spark plug, it gives you a great deal of understanding of how the sun is constantly explosive within itself. It's constantly imploding within itself. That in a spark plug, when you adjust a spark plug, so the firing of the spark plug has a particular, let's say, explosiveness in it, you work the gap in it. And so they have all these various measurements according to the cylinder and the type of motor and the steel and the type of petrol, that how you open up this gap. And that determines the type of fire, the explosiveness that's going to occur, that's going to create the piston to go away from, because the explosion forces the piston away from itself, causing the motor to turn on itself. And this gap is so important, because if you put in the wrong measurement of the gap, you're going to get a misfire. And that will cause the whole motor, that will cause all 2,000, 3,000 pounds to, which, you know, most cars weigh about that much. It will cause 2,000 or 3,000 pounds not to hardly move by, let's say, putting the wrong gap in there, the wrong size. And as it is for the wrong step, making the wrong step, it can be fatal. It has been fatal to many people. They've been hit by buses, by cars, stepping off the pavement, stepping into the subway, and as it is for ourselves. When we don't mind the gap within ourselves, and look at it this way, because everything is very delicate. Each word counts, people. Each word that comes out of your mouth counts. Each step counts. Your life counts. Every day counts. Mind the gap. Mind the ignorance. Mind the sensitivity. Mind the feelings. Mind your thoughts. Mind who you're looking at. Mind the gap of presence in your eyes versus there's no presence in your eyes. Timing is everything. We know this. It's everything. It makes a difference. But because we have been taught not to mind the gap, but we have learned to mind the gap, stepping over curbs, getting into cars, getting into subways, and sometimes we make mistakes, but we think that's the only time we mind the gap. But we know what happens if we step just on a little stone. And how it can throw us off. And we know what happens when we say the wrong word. We're in trouble for weeks maybe, or hours maybe. And it's to mind the gap, within ourselves. And to mind the gap that other people have in their own lives. And when you understand that in our society, when it comes to feelings within ourselves and the feelings externally, this is where the heart comes in. When it comes to the mind, when it comes to, there's very little room for gap. It's either black or it's white. Either you did it right or you did it wrong. Either you love me or you hate me. Either you are for me or you are against me. There's hardly any room for gap, and we know that. Easily to judge. Easily to say, you're fired, that's it, I quit, I divorce you, I walk away, this, that. It's easy to mind the gap. And this is where the heart comes in. The heart, when it really comes to the feelings, is the result that is basically externally based. It's what makes the heart really function. It's externally based. Because it is just not you that exist. It is because of the existence of your grandparents and your great-great-grandparents. And it's the existence of water, air, fire, earth. It's the result of everything external, why you exist, that really has given you your feelings. So it is externally based. And anything that you feel, the explosion, the gap, you could say, has been, let's say, closed, been touched. What happens when you hate a friend? Gap. There's a gap. What happens when you dislike someone? There's a gap. And what you want to do is go away, repel from each other. Completely go away from each other. But what happens when you want to be with someone? What happens when you love someone? The gap. Somehow magic appears. Somehow easily disappears. You could say like a spark plug. And because it's just two pieces of metal between here and here, and there's this gap, it is the love, it is the fire inside that closes the gap. I can never be you, and you can never be me. I can never be my son. My son will always be my son. This is the phenomenon of the self. I cannot eat for you. You cannot eat for me. I cannot dream for you, and you cannot dream for me. We are stuck with our own selves, you could say. We are stuck with our own shoes. And this is the beauty of life. But you could say there is a beauty in what it is to be alone, because we are alone, people. The reality is we are alone. We have been given, you could say, a soul. We can mix eggs and make scrambled eggs. We can mix emotions. We cannot really share our bodies. We can touch each other. We can dance with each other. We can kiss. We can exchange bacteria and viruses with each other. But we really stand alone. It's a harsh reality. It doesn't create loneliness. For to understand, to really be alone it's a major ingredient. It is the last ingredient of walking out what it is to be a human being. We're alone. Period. You cannot blend two different trees. And yet we try. For there really is a vast beauty in really to understand I am who I am. I can see you. I can touch you. I can feel your breath. And even when I pass away, it is still the same. I still can say, I can see you, I can feel you, and I can feel your breath. And yet I still stand alone. And this is the gift of life. To be an individual. This is the gift of life, to stand alone. This is a gift. When you look at your hand reaching down inside a box to pick up whatever is inside your box, it's alone inside that box. It's wonderful to have friends. It's wonderful to get phone calls and letters. It's wonderful to have someone scratch your back. It's wonderful for someone to care for you. It's a real beauty to have a nurse. It's a real beauty to have someone wash your hair. But no one can dream for you still. No one can feel your pain. No one can take your pain. No one can feel your joy or take it away from you. No one can steal your light that is inside you. No one can. It's yours. And therefore, when it comes to the heart, the feelings are externally based, actually. I know we feel them coming from within, and they are within, but it's because they are externally based. The mind constantly keeps the eye very closely on the gap, on the distance and space between this and that. And yet it is the heart very much, you could say, like an explosion, that when it begins to feel, the explosion goes out and touches everything. From underneath your feet, from above your head, and does not see and recognize a ruler does not recognize the inch, the meter, or a millimeter, for it encompasses it. It embraces it. And that's what makes a heart so difficult. And that's why we easily hurt. That's why we are so easily, a little maybe sometimes, but yet it's worth it, sensitive to all kinds of situations. Do not be afraid of hurt. Re-educate yourself and let yourself be hurt and watch. Just watch what it does. You won't die from it. When you begin to understand, when people start to feel that hurt is not good for them and it's a wrong way, the adventure starts to cease in your life. You start to stay home more and go out less. You stop taking chances and you start to play it safe. But if you realize that that hurt is something that just is out there, and you won't die from it, gamble and take a chance of getting hurt by going to new places, learning new friends, talking to strangers, and watch what happens. Some may yell at you and you get hurt, it's okay. And some may take you in. And when people hurt you, it's okay. It's okay. Just try not to take it so personal. But as you begin to understand these little stones, sometimes darts, sometimes hand grenades, sometimes spears, sometimes knives, sometimes a kick that these hurts can do, you begin to realize we're very resilient human beings. We can bounce back. Our bodies can, let's say, take care of the bruises really quite fast. Just get up and let the venture continue and don't stop. Nobody really wants to hurt. Nobody does. No sentient being really wants to hurt. But if you can see what it is that makes them do that makes us do that, you will never condemn another human being again. Never. Any questions? What's wrong with the extreme emotions? When it comes to the extreme emotions, this is where you need your mind. This is why the mind is without the mind, in this world, the heart's in trouble. Without the heart, the mind's in trouble. Okay? That's why I work on both. If you take a survey and look how the general public, their behavior is, and how they move in the world with their attitudes and behavior, and what happens when there's an extreme emotion, it upsets the situation. People get upset because you have, let's say, taken them off their track. And it can cause accidents. It can cause people to be disrupted. It can throw off people's timing, etc., etc. There's a disrespect in it. And when there is an explosion like happens in Israel, you can see what it does. It creates a shock, you know. And most people are in shock a lot. You know, they don't need to be shocked anymore. And so when it comes to extreme emotions, there's a time and a place for it. And that's where you have to determine where this time and this place exist. So it becomes appropriate. So extreme emotions are wonderful to bring out, provided that it's appropriate. Provided that it's appropriate. Yeah. And if you have extreme emotions and you have a problem with this, where it erupts and it comes out, you need to find a therapist or a good friend so it can be worked out. So you can figure out where it can be exhibited or where it can be allowed to show itself, show its face. But respect, people. It is not your right at all to show your emotions. It is not your right. A lot of people say it's my right to speak my piece. It is my right to say what I want to say. It is my right to say the truth. It is my right to scream when I want. It is not your right. That's ignorance. That's total and complete selfish ignorance. It is not your right. At all. It's ignorance. And if you have any variations of truth whatsoever on any subject matter, it is not your right to speak it. At all. Unless it's appropriate. Unless it's appropriate. And that, you know, again, and that's on a case-by-case basis. So it takes a lot of discretion for this. An awful lot of discretion to really know when it is good to speak and when it is not. The truth for most people is deadly and insensitive. So you have to be very, very, very careful and educate yourself, re-educate yourself with all this. If someone's coming at you with a knife, and it's, what do you mean subtle? I don't understand that. Oh, metaphorically speaking, with a knife. Okay, no. All right, let me tell you a story. No, wait, let me tell you a story. Hey. Most people that I know do this. Most people that I know do this. And of course you don't. One evening I went to this went to this movie with some people. And it was the movie The Last of the Mohicans. And this is when the movie first came out years ago. And The Last of the Mohicans is really, it's a wonderful love story. It's a beautiful love story. Beautiful love story. Well done. Love story. But so many people have the focus of violence in their heads. Everything is violence, you know. And when we came out of the movie house, this person, we were talking about this one incident, because it was this one incident where this Indian had kidnapped this white woman, well, two white women, and lost one and ended up with one, and he was fine. At least I got one. And the one who loved this white woman, this other Indian, was chasing him, and him and his father and his brother. Finally, the two brothers and the father caught up with the Indian who's kidnapped this white woman, and they killed a lot of his friends. And now it ended up being the two Indians, the lover and the kidnapper, are now going to fight on this edge of this cliff. And the bad Indian killed the good Indian and threw him off the cliff. And the white woman who loved the good Indian, she decided she's going to jump off the cliff. And the good Indian, or the bad Indian, didn't want that to happen. And so what the other person said, what the other person saw, was that being that she was going to jump off the cliff, what the bad Indian did, that he lifted up his knife. And I said, no, the bad Indian pulled down his knife. He didn't want to threaten. But no, she said, no. He lifted up his knife to threaten her, even though, no, he didn't. Right? And this is what happens with most people. Because in reality, because there was an argument, and she assumed that I was wrong, and she was just dead wrong, period. She turned it around. Completely turned it around. Completely turned it around. That's because in people's heads, when people have a specific idea about men, about women, about various situations, they always turn the story around inside their head. Even though it's on screen, they will turn it around. And so your question, with somebody coming at you with a knife, be careful. Be careful. Be very, very careful. You can turn this around to any direction that you want. See, when anybody says anything to me, I take it with a grain of salt, no matter what you say. Because are you turning this around in your head? Are you making this up in your head? Are you twisting the story? Are you twisting the light inside? Are you manipulating the light inside? Probably yes. Maybe a little bit no. Or probably no, and maybe just a little bit yes. Maybe a little word, a little syllable, a little nuance, a little emphasis, a little this, a little that. It's a play of light. You're the master. You're the master painter. You're the director of all the light inside, of all the colors inside. You can do anything you want inside. You can say anything you want. What most people say, I don't pay much attention to, because people twist things. It is up to you to find out what you twist. It's up to you. I have seen that I approach many people, and they say, "Oh, you approached me with a knife, or you approached me with a gun, or I didn't. It is because of the images inside that most people have inside about the world, about men, about women, about children, about work. Once that light Once that sound gets past these eyes, once that sound gets past these ears, all I can say to you is good luck. Good luck, people. My advice, I tell you, you know what it's like? You have paint stores here, don't you? Huh? Have you ever gone into a paint store and say, hey, give me a peach color, and give me one of these big cans. I don't want these gallon cans. Give me those 5-gallon cans. Yeah, give me a little peach. No, a little darker peach. Can you put in a little pinker peach? No, give me now a little orange. No, it needs a little black. No, give me a little blue in there. No, put in a pink in there again. And it keeps building up, building up. You got all these colors in there, And then I said, well, I don't know if that's the right color. Maybe let's put in a little red. Maybe that's what it is. I need a little red in there, in there. That's what we do inside. And it started off with a pretty pink. Good luck. Be wise. Be smart with your mind. Be smart with your nervous system, people. Be smart with your mind. Do not be dumb with your life or your time. It's a big paint company in here, and you can mix anything you want. Anything you want. You can mix any word, any emotions, any feeling for your own justification. You can make anybody look bad. You can make anybody wrong. Anybody wrong. You can twist any word you wish. Good luck. Good luck. Good luck. You can paint this world as black as you want. You can paint it as white as you want. You can make people look like angels or make people devils as quickly as you want. What do you want to do? What do you want to do? You are the artist. You're the one with the paintbrush in your hand. You're the one with the pencil in your hand. You're the one with the knife in your hand. Because once it gets past these eyes and these ears, or someone touches you, good luck. So what I say to you, be careful what you think. Be careful what you say. I wouldn't trust anything. I had to teach myself not to trust anything I thought, anything I said, anything I felt, any philosophy I dreamt up. I had to throw everything away. I had to trash everything because I didn't know what to trust. I had to teach myself how to walk all over again, how to think all over again, to get myself straight with every word, every thought. I had to teach myself all the gaps, mind the gaps. And I had lots of gaps. How do you know when you're getting straight? You know. See, again, the major problem is that most human beings in this world, except for a lot of third world countries, some places haven't done this yet. In most places of this world, we actually rob our kids of their conscience. We teach them to throw their conscience into the back seat of their car. And who we put next to us is logic and reason. Is there blood in logic and reason? There's no blood in it. It's just paper. And then most people, that becomes their guide. That becomes their God and their guide, logic and reason. But logic and reason is necessary to have, and you better have very good logic and reason, very good common sense. You better get very good at it. Otherwise, you won't do well in this world. But you don't stick logic and reason next to you. Do you walk with a statue? You know, that's like walking with a statue all the time, all next door. Or do you want to walk with a living blood with skin and bone friend? But most people walk with logic and reason next to them. A statue. A statue. There's no blood in it, people. Your conscience. It is your conscience. But most people can't even hear it. Usually sometimes around the age 21 to 24, 26, it's gone. It's gone. And for a lot of people, 16, 17, I've seen it already gone. And I've seen some kids at the age of 12 already gone. The parents have literally forced it out of them. Logic and reason. How do you preserve it? How do you preserve it for kids? It's difficult. If the parents don't have it, it's going to be difficult to let them have it. Because when the parents don't have it, they get angry at the kids all the time. They get frustrated. They get totally frustrated with them. Because they're frustrated with themselves. Because they can't speak the same language. Two different languages. Two different worlds, two different perceptions. And then when the human being gets in their 20s and 30s, especially their 40s, they begin to realize something is terribly wrong. There's a gap inside. Mind the gap, and the gap is, I'm dry. There's something wrong. There's a big hole inside. And then, very funny thing, this is what's so ironic about having being a human being. Old age, how so many, they revert back to youth. They almost exhibit youth again. Young kids, young minds, young attitudes. They start to let go. They start to relax. They're not so hostile. They're not so tight. They even start to shrink. They get smaller. And somehow, not all, they can be nicer, kinder. The conscience is starting to come to the front seat again. And logic and reason is no longer their God. They start to walk with blood. Yeah. Okay, I'm going to go into the fire dance. So I'm going to ask that you please register. If you haven't registered, please register.